A lot of us really do know what we want: peace, ease, contentment, a loving relationship. But we so often may find we encounter blocks to getting there. Well, the good news is the route to being able to locate and have those things in our life is much closer than you think. And today, we're going to be exploring that. Welcome. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Rutstein, and this is the Wired for Wellbeing podcast, where we take a nervous system perspective and see how looking through that perspective can transform the way you live, love, and relate. Each week, I'm joined by my good friend and producer, Steve Lessard. Steve, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, Jeffrey. Hi, everybody. I'm doing really well today, and I'm a little intrigued because today is a question that you wanted to bring forward, and I don't have anything written. I don't have anything recorded, so I'm going to turn it back to you to tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
Great. So, I've been working for years as a somatic psychologist, and I have been working with people who have undergone trauma and very strenuous, painful events in their lives, as well as many, many years also practicing contemplative tools and practices for my own healing, my own well-being, my own maturing and growing. And what I've been clearer on more and more is how things hold us back that we're often not aware of, but we can have access to these blocks or constrictions in our life by paying careful attention to our body. So let me talk about something called interoception, which is the ability to have a sense, a connection with our inner body experience. And so the more interoception we develop, the more that we can notice our stomach and where it is, or if we're holding tension in our shoulders or our legs, or maybe restricting our breathing a little bit, we can pay attention to these things. We actually begin to become automatically more and more regulated. This is what research shows. And we're able to bounce back easier after stressful events. And we're able to notice earlier on in the process when we're beginning to get dysregulated and upset. And it's always easier to be able to help reduce a growing sense of irritation when you catch it at a 1 or a 2 versus when it's already a 15 out of 10, you're feeling pretty helpless at that point in time.
So I'm going to hop in here with a few questions.
Sure, please.
Interoception. Can you give us the pretend I was a third grader definition of that?
Sure. It refers to our ability to sense inside the body, to be able to perceive bodily signals, whether it's digestion or sometimes our heart beating, or noticing when we're sweating, or noticing what part of our body aches or what part of our body is stiff and constricted. Having a sense of these things, that's interoception. And some people have little, some people have much more. Anyone who's interested, unless there is something wrong with their nervous system that they can't actually have sensory contact with their body, broken neck, paralysis, they may not have the same access to this. But for people who do not have any organic blocking to their ability to receive sense perceptions, anyone can be taught how to enhance and deepen their interoception, their ability to feel inside and experience inside of themselves.
Okay, so now what's the connection to this skill that some individuals may have more access to than others, from what I'm hearing, to feel inside their body, to this other idea of there's things that hold us back? How do the things we want in our lives relate to how I feel maybe the internal life of my body?
Okay. Great question. So, um, our body is always speaking, and our body will reflect the state of our nervous system. And so, if I'm tense all over, well, that's pretty clear that I'm either in fight or flight, right? Sympathetic activation, I'm tightening my body, I'm ready to run for my life or fight for my life. Or I'm freeze. I'm in freeze and I don't know which way to go, but I'm really scared, I'm really alert, I'm really activated, but too terrified to take a step. So when we can perceive what state we're in through the basics of interoception, some awareness of our body state, we begin to get information about where our nervous system is, and then we know where we are in the map and what kinds of practices we might engage in to help restore us a bit more towards regulation. But there is a deeper quality of interoception that goes beyond the experience of muscle tightness or stomach growling, or ringing in your ears or pain somewhere. It's actually being able to learn how to make contact through your awareness, having an awareness of the interiority of your body, of actually being able to be directing your awareness so that you're actually inhabiting the body within the body. Most of the time, we're either totally ignorant of our body, we don't pay much attention to it, especially if it's giving us signals we don't want, like, I don't want to be tense right now. I don't want to be tired right now. I don't want to be hungry right now. I don't want to be this right now. So most of the time, we go through life ignoring anything the body is sending us, unless it's really bad pain. So learning how to pay attention in this way, and this comes from a bit more of contemplative practices, and it also comes from deeper somatic work, where we can begin to pay attention to the body as a whole, and we can begin to feel this unified sense of aliveness within and flowing through the body. One of my colleagues, Judith Blackstone, who's a wonderful teacher, very inspiring teacher, created a process called the realization process many years ago. And it's an interesting and instructing story about how she sort of made this understanding. In her earlier life, she was a dancer and a dance instructor, and then severely injured her back to the point that she was in so much pain, and she had seen specialists and surgeons, and no one could really help her. So she was lying a lot on her floor of her home. It was an apartment and studio. It's where she taught. And she began leading her dance classes while she was laying down because she couldn't sit or stand. But she was in so much pain and so limited in her ability to move that she spent many hours a day practicing, really getting very relaxed, and also allowing her awareness to move up close to inner experience, to sort of become the experience of being inside of her body. And what she found was that as she did that, as she began to relax more and direct her awareness in this very subtle way, the body began to slowly and spontaneously heal. She still required surgeries, but the idea is she found that by doing this work, not by doing any physical motion, stretches, exercises, but by specifically doing this deep inner work, she was finding and releasing the contractions and constrictions which were propagating, maintaining this level of searing pain in her spine. And that led her to discover this whole process.
So I'm going to try to loop in some individuals here who I'm imagining might be like wanting a sense of what you're talking about. So you use the phrase unified sense of wholeness. So you're not talking about just feeling maybe the pain in your shoulder. You're talking about something more subtle, more energetic.
Yeah, it's actually even a little bit more subtle than energetic. It it is a very subtle kind of attention. Again, by the way, anyone can learn to develop, just with practice, sincerity and practice, you can develop this kind of refined sensitivity, and it will actually be quite releasing and healing to do it. So it's a way of, let me just give one example about like pain. Most of the time, if you have some pain, let's just make it up a shoulder ache, we want to get away from the ache. We want to distract ourselves. See something on a screen, read something, eat something, do anything instead of just circle around the drain thinking about our pain and how bad it hurts. We want to get away from it. That's our nervous system. That's normal. But there are many techniques for working with your awareness and your experience of pain to transform it. And I've done this myself for years, where instead of going away from the pain, I actually, in my awareness, move up very close to the heart center of the pain, to the most intense part of it. And I don't fight it. I don't try to exaggerate it, but I try to, as best I can, allow it, where I'm not really allowing it, but I'm not trying to interfere with it, stop it, change it. I'm being with it, meaning I'm observing it, I'm feeling it, I'm aware of it. But number one, I'm not getting sucked into all the old stories about how bad is this going to be? How long is it going to last? Oh my God, I did this. I was so stupid for doing this, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just paying attention to the ever changing sensations of, which usually turn out to be somewhat pulsing, of waves of contraction, which result in pain. And the more that I could move into the pain, the more that my experience of the pain itself transformed. It became sensation versus pain. I was able to experience it as heat, as sharp, as pounding, and I was able to watch the sensation and be with it without being overwhelmed with it, but without being overtaken by it. And that this technique can work with any level of pain, including like super severe pain. As long as you have some clarity and presence, people can learn how to do this. But what I'm trying to point to here is that many people are, number one, unaware of how much our body contributes to us feeling well and sometimes us feeling unwell, whether it's physically unwell or psychologically held back or constricted or frustrated.
The connection, I think, from the physical feelings of pain and discomfort and using our body as a doorway to start to access and maybe relieve or heal some of those. It's a clear link, I think, for a lot of us. You're starting to go into the psychological aspects. I mean, how does our body hold us back from, I don't know, experiencing a relationship or having greater self-confidence, if I'm understanding what you're talking about correctly? Yeah,
Okay,
let's go there.
great, because there is a slight but significant differentiation. So, for example, there were been over the years many women that I've worked with who were experienced sexual violation at some point in their life. And because of that, they were not able to enter their bodies below the waist in the region of their genitals or pelvic bowl. That they could enter their stomach, they could enter their heart, they could enter their throat, they could enter their feet, their legs, but they couldn't inhabit, move in and close with their awareness into their sexual genital region. Now, We might think nothing of that. And if you're not paying attention to it, you wouldn't notice it because you're not getting feeling there. So you wouldn't notice the absence of feeling. But what this also does is this does constrict our access to sexual energy. Sexual energy comes from the body. It doesn't just come from the mind. And if we're cutting off access to a part of the body, we're cutting off access to that part of our aliveness. And so if there's parts of your body that are hard for you to inhabit, a couple of things. It indicates a couple of things. It means that there's a sense of some inner fragmentation. It could be very subtle. And it may also be a corollary to ways that you're not fully inhabiting your body and your life as the metaphor. And also by paying attention to things. For example, as Judith recently had joined our program, I remember her stating this again, that, as children, if we're exposed to noxious things, alcohol on a parent's breath, constant screaming and noise in the background, horrible things we had to see, then the only thing that children can usually do, because they're not able to just leave and run away and go to a better home and family, they need to stay in this environment. But we survive noxious, obnoxious, overwhelming environments by closing down and trying to push them out. And we can only do this by using our anatomy, by actually closing the anatomy. And so, you actually can't close hearing, but you can tighten all the muscles that go around in the ear, the inner ear, the earlobe itself. There can be a contraction. And this contraction may not at all significantly impact your hearing, but it's a constant use of this fight energy. It's being held sort of permanently in the musculature around your ears. Or in someone who had to see horrible, unseeable things, would have tension around their eyes and their eyelids, their low forehead. People were sexually violated. They may find that they contract their belly, their anus, their genital region, again, to protect themselves from assault versus either metaphorical or literal. Years later, we may not even remember why we may have done this. And if our attention isn't brought to it when we try to inhabit the body, we may not even notice, oh God, I have this tension here in my ear and my jaw. I wonder what that's about. We can help someone actually by coming back to their body, realize why they made the contraction or constriction in the first place. But there's a way of undoing it, of releasing it. So can I give another example? To sort of move this on. So one
please. Yeah, please.
Is like with shame. So shame has a body posture that usually goes with kind of a forward sunk head, slightly rounded shoulders, a tendency to sort of gently to massively avoiding eye contact with other people, keeping our energy contained, almost like trying to be a little bit invisible. And some people will find that, they just stand like that. They're not aware that they just naturally begin to assume this posture when they're standing or sitting. And by bringing someone's attention to that and by sort of feeling into the subtle level of the body, you can begin to perceive these tightenings, these rings of constriction that we may have had over years of holding a body like that, where it's naturally our shoulders begin to round, our head begins to come forward. There's a little curving in our chest or caving in. And by paying attention to this, we can begin to release these from the inside. It's different than, oh, I'll stand up straight. Thinking you'll stand up straight only works as long as you can remember to stand up straight. But if you sort of unwind the constrictions, standing up straight just emerges without you having to remember it, because you no longer have this kinesthetic memory, this body muscle memory of keeping you in a shame posture.
What I'm getting, I'm starting to be able to piece together here. So there may have been something in our environment that form of trauma, I'll use the hearing arguments, and trying to block that out as a child, and tightening, and through this somatic experience, I can begin to maybe recognize that I don't have access to that part of my body, that part of the body is really hard for me to touch in on or feel or notice. And that awareness might lead to some healing or some awareness or not. But what I'm also hearing is is this right? Like that awareness starts to, when you can start touching into that starts to reverse maybe some of the things, or unblock some of the things that aren't
Yes.
available to you because of that?
Yes. Yes. Um, there
How?
are, well, okay. So the more that we can be a warm witness, I don't mean be separate from our experience, right? We're a participant observer. We're not just an observer. We're a warm witness. We're connected with what's going on. We're not just disconnected and watching it like it's on a screen. But the more that we can watch or recall a certain memory and allow the body to have its reaction, but most of us is regulated. Most of us is anchored in the present with the overall experience of the body as grounding. And then there might be some contraction or disruption or displeasure going on in a particular region of the body. But when we approach it from this more deeply contacted awareness, we have an element of balance that we do not have if we're not grounded in the body. So there's a couple of things that want to tumble out right now, which is that anytime we've had significant emotional or physical pain, we will tend to stay more outside our body than inside of it, especially if the physical or emotional pain has been deliberate from trauma. Then we usually stay even further away from our body. But then, again, over time, we don't notice the direct effects, but we notice we don't feel as alive as we'd like to. I don't ever feel as peace. I'm always feeling something's missing.
The image of a callus is kind of coming to my mind. Like we build up this protective layer around the
Yes,
thing.
yes, exactly right. And a callus toughens and deadens our sensitivity, so it protects the skin, right? And if I have to keep doing the digging, I certainly want calluses on my hands so I don't keep tearing them up. That's healthy. But if we develop calluses in some way around our heart, around our self-concept, or around being able to be in our body, it limits us. It may have at one time protected us, but now every place that we can't inhabit the body in, that's a corollary or a metaphor for the parts of our life, because our body is how we experience life. This is the vessel we're going through life with. And the more that we can connect with this deep, deep inner experience of the body, the more that we can both have the capacity to let things move through us through our awareness without shaking us up like an earthquake. And as long as we can remain mostly grounded when that happens, there's a release that can go on. Matter of fact, there's even techniques about specifically releasing these constrictions, say around the ears, eyes, mouth, or throat, around your pelvis, around your arms. It's a way of seeing all the little ways that we have through a lifetime of, living and tumbling around in this world with other people, how we develop these clenches. And again, everybody has them. It's not wrong to have them, but we're just kind of beginning to see on a deeper level how this keeps us slightly outside of our own life, much more in our own head and much more complaining about the state of things, because we're not connected with this deeper, alive wisdom and capacity, right? That is already here.
What are some signs that our viewers and listeners might clue into that I'm going to use the word callus again? One of these calluses maybe exists, and I'm hearing one might be like not being able to fully feel into a part of the body. Is okay, and that, so yes, I'm hearing that's one. And then what are elaborate on that or give us some clues for people to say like, huh, I wonder if this is one of those things Jeffrey's talking about.
So, I mean, we can look at it from different angles. So someone may say, I want to be more authentic. I want to tell my truth. But then they find out, or they watch, they had an opportunity to say something and they couldn't. I wanted to say no, but I ended up saying yes. Or no, I don't want to host the dinner party, but we say yes. We can respond in places. Our verbal response can be quick, and it can sometimes feel like I felt like I had to say it versus I didn't mean to say it. Matter of fact, we talked a little bit about that in our most recent episode or one of our recent episodes on people pleasing. So people pleasing is something, and people could pay attention in that moment to when someone asks them and put them on the spot. Pay attention to your throat. Is your throat feeling open and relaxed, or all of a sudden does it start to clench a bit, tighten a bit? Subtle, but present in its feedback. If you're tightening, it's letting you know that's not a yes. A yes would be, yeah, there's no tension. It feels fully forthright, clear. Yes, I'm happy to do this. I want to do this. There's contraction. There's at the very least ambivalence. I'm not so sure I want to do this. And it could always be to outright, no, I don't want to. I'm just don't feel like I'm allowed to say no.
I'm getting stuck on the mechanism of how here, and maybe it doesn't matter, is potentially what I'm ready to hear back. But how does this awareness of, okay, I wanted to say no, I said yes, I feel it in my throat. My throat feels like I'm swallowing a grapefruit.
Okay.
Okay, great. That's awareness. But how does that lead to what I'm understanding is like healing or resolving that for the next time that happens?
Okay. So play a patient.
Got it.
So put your awareness in that grapefruit that you're trying to swallow.
Okay.
And feel its dimensionality. And then also notice, right, that there's a sense a little quieter than that, right, of a fullness in that region, both the fullness of the grapefruit, right, but you can also feel somewhat the fullness of the throat and the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It feels like it's extending beyond the side of my neck.
Yes, like a little bit outside of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's very common. Can you also get a sense, though, that the ball, grapefruit, and the neck feels basically like a similar sensation? They may be slightly different in intensity, but the quality of feeling the neck, the throat, feeling this grapefruit that's stuck there, difference in intensity, but the sensation is not too dissimilar from one another.
Yeah, in my experience, I can't tell the boundary between the two.
Exactly.
When I'm feeling into it.
Exactly. So now this is moving towards more subtle when you begin to feel that, yeah, as I pay more attention, the boundary isn't as sharp, which is exactly what most of us find as we do this. Can you allow yourself to allow the neck and throat to relax? Not to try to change the grapefruit, not to try to swallow it, but to gently, as much as feels safe right now, invite the muscles, the skin, the fascia in the throat and neck to gently relax, to gently open.
Yep, I'm feeling that start to move.
And what are you noticing as that's happening? What else are you noticing, if anything?
I'm noticing other areas of my body softening.
Okay.
Upper chest, my back.
Right. So this is like a chaining effect, right? So we're focusing on one area, and as we move our attention in and become more subtle and more deeply contacted, we become aware of two things. We have more body awareness in general, not just the throat. We can also feel subtler levels, this is interoception, of the body beginning to relax, right? So there's a synergy effect here. As you're doing this, this relaxing and releasing is beginning to also show up in other regions of the body. Ultimately, it'll be part of the whole body as you do this. And so we might spend a few moments here. That might be enough, or I might invite you to think about the same conversation, and then the moment where you have the opportunity to say yes or no, and then just notice as you're imagining getting up to that moment, what happens to sensation in the throat and the grapefruit.
Now, this is where I think I'm getting stuck in my thinking mind a little bit, because as an imagined experience, I didn't have a tangible conversation triggering incident. I'm sure there are in my life, but I'm realizing I'm searching for one instead of feeling into the sensations. I realize me as the crash test dummy here might start to reach its limit. But keep talking to the people as if I felt something. What would I feel there, or what
So,
would be like
so
the next?
chances are, if I asked you when you brought it up, you would actually notice a little bit of contraction again.
Okay.
Which is normal. Then we'd go back into gently working at releasing and opening this, right? We might do another pass at just bringing that thought up of saying, no, probably get a little contraction, but most likely be a little less. That might be all we do. But then over a series of weeks or a month or two, we would keep bringing this up. And so over time, this constriction becomes less and less likely. And when it does get engaged, it's engaged at a much less severe level. And basically, that was a sign of what was needing to be squelched in you, right? Was needing to be kept in you and silenced. And as we begin to listen to whatever made the contraction and begin to directly invite the contraction to release a little, then we start changing our experience. We start seeing that we're actually more capable of it. And this is where we wanted to enter the stream today, and the idea that a lot of times what pulls us back from the kinds of experiences we want is our nervous system habits that keep us focused on our inadequacy, our problem, our unworthiness, or the horrible things going on in the world today, or the horrible things happening in my family, or the state of our money affairs, or food affairs, or whatever it is. And so we so easily get absorbed and lost in those, and it's supported by our nervous system and our body. So most people are pretty good at paying attention to some of the things like their thoughts and the way they're narrating their life. But another really important and profoundly helpful skill is this deeper embodiment, is being able to, first, we just start with feeling the body in space and, noticing the relative relaxation or tension that's held in the body. We do a little bit of teaching about how to release that. And then we continue to refine the process of then going deeper, going a little bit more sensitively into experience and noticing more subtle levels of experience. And that's where we can both pick up the little things that are holding us back and how to work directly with them. And notice, we're not working with this psychologically, right? I mean, there might be some psychological work around it, but we're actually working directly with the body and the way that it's holding tension, and also the way that you're relating to the tension in the body. Changing your relationship with your body, helping you be able to inhabit it more and more fully, allows you to feel whole, completely and deeply whole in that moment. In those moments, too, people actually have momentary or longer contact with peace, with ease, with a sense of their own worth, with a deeper capacity for love and compassion towards self and other, right? And that it's not always our thoughts that are keeping us back. It's what is often not fully conscious, but still held and perceivable in the body. We just have to get a little quiet to hear it, right? Like the loudest thing speaking in the body will be not as subtle. There'll be pain and sunburn and, the chair is too hard. Those are all important. And we need to know those, but we also want to refine our ability to have an even deeper, more fuller, more sensitive contact with our inner experience. That's what gives us both the map of, oh, I'm still holding my throat, or I protect my chest, or when I'm around people I don't feel comfortable with, I find that my shoulders automatically go up, right? And by working with these habits and working with the subtle constrictions that go with them, we can unwind and release the blocks, the things that hold us back from allowing ourselves to feel safe when we feel fulfilled, or to feel safe feeling contentment, or to feel safe to actually have love in our life without then having to make sure, well, I am allowed to have love, but I also have to have a lot of painful problems. It's a way of finding a different path. And what's really interesting about this work is that it's subtle, but it's not hard work. We're not really forcing anything to happen here. We're actually relaxing into experience. It's a training of our awareness to attune to subtle experience and to be able to work with it.
Let's stick on this idea of working with it.
Okay.
Jeffrey, you and I, to a degree, have had a bunch of bodywork practice in our personal lives, professional lives, understanding, leading up to us being able to maybe touch in on these things. And I imagine many of our viewers and listeners do as well. But there are probably viewers and listeners out there who are like, wait, I can feel my body. Like, wait, what? But want this type of awareness. They want this type of relief. They want this type of healing, might I say. How can you help them, to a degree, all of us, who this might be foreign to, or who might not know the steps to take to come into contact with their body?
Well, first of all, I want to say again, anyone can learn how to do this. Unless they have significant brain damage, anyone can learn how to do this. It takes practice. Now, for many people, a certain amount of our audience has gone through adversive times or trauma. And so they may experience, as they begin to practice this, number one, people who've had adversive or traumatic experiences tend to be a bit further away from their body than people who had more consistently safe experiences growing up with their body. So one of the things that can happen when people begin to practice is they get frustrated because they're not doing it perfectly or like they should. Shame kicks in, gets them to I'll never be good at this. I'm a failure. Like I need remedial body school. I'm never going to get there. I'll just give up now. And that's part of the cycle of falling back in. So it is gradual. It takes time. It takes months to begin to really learn how to work in this way, but it's very, very possible. Judith Blackstone has some books out. One book is The Realization Process, which has guided practices that she invites you to do in there. She also has another wonderful book, Trauma and the Unbound Body. Both of those are great places to start. And it's Judith, Judith, Blackstone, Blackstone. And her process is called the Realization Process. Those are some great ways to start. For people who have no idea about embodiment at all, haven't done anything, One place you can also start with is like a body scan. And that's a typical mindfulness exercise that can be anywhere from 15 minutes to 50 minutes. And you can find guided practices of a certain length, and it moves you section by section through the body and beginning to learn how to tune in surface and depth to the body. Judith's practices, these more subtle practices, are one step a little bit beyond what's usually taught in a body scan, but a body scan can be a very good place to start for people who say, like, I don't know my ankle from my nose, or, I mean, no one's going to say that, but I don't feel much in my body, or I only feel hunger, or I only pay attention when something's broken. Then that might be an easier place to first start in coming in. And then there's plenty of therapists who are trained in methods to really help you deal with this deeply. And on the Realization Process website, they have a list of teachers who have also gone through this and offer individual sessions with folks to help people attune to this and deepen their capacity. So there's resources out there on YouTube, books, audiobooks, and directly working with other humans on this. But what I want to say is that I think that the body is underappreciated for this level of healing. And that as we can tap into this capacity for presence and attuning to being in our body, that it opens up a portal to healing, which is very profound, because we get information about what our constrictions are holding back or related to, but we also can work with these places in the body that are still holding tight and begin to help it be released. And as we release the constrictions, we free up energy, literally, but we also free up capacity to say no, capacity to follow a dream, capacity to say, I deserve to sit and rest right now. I deserve to be in a loving relationship. I'm going to find, create, maintain, nourish a loving, satisfying relationship. So the body is the closest thing we have to explore it, and it also hides all the keys to what holds us back.
Fascinating topic today. Thank you for unpacking and sharing this with us. I want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can find out more about you and your work, as well as if they have the question, because the other things we do on this episode, friends, is take your questions, and sometimes we answer our own questions like today, but we also take yours. So Jeffrey, how do they send a question in, and where can we learn more about your work?
Great. Thanks, Steve. Yes, please. We love questions. And if you have one, feel free to leave us a voicemail with your question. The number is 866-357-5156. If for any reason you can't reach that number, if you're calling internationally, feel free to send me an email, either with an audio file with your question there so we can play it, or just simply type to hello@drjeffreyrutstein.com. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the nervous system in general, I have a free gift on my website that talks about why we feel stuck in our life. It goes into depth, and it also offers you practices for each kind of state we can get into. And you can find that at drjeffreyrutstein.com/links. And you'll see a link for a free gift. And go there and you can get it. Steve, thank you for indulging me today in this question. I felt it was timely and hopefully would be interesting and helpful.
Yeah, and thank you, Jeffrey, for indulging my follow-up questions and continued attempt to make sure I was tracking with what you're sharing, and for sharing this fascinating topic with us. So thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it. Friends, remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for direct mental health care or physical health care. if you are struggling, please seek out a qualified healthcare professional. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Until next time, bye for now.